Religion is back in our country, bigger and stronger than it has been in many, many years. Been reading all of those reports. Religion's really, it's going up.
President Donald Trump addressing the Faith and Freedom Coalition today, saying that, quote, "For America to be a great nation, we must always be one nation under God," which is also part of our Pledge of Allegiance, which is being eliminated in public schools across the country. America, in our First Amendment, is a nation that prides itself on religious freedom, not religious takeover or forced acceptance of a religion. And there's a difference, especially at a time when a major political party is being commandeered by third world communists, many of them Muslims who want to change our way of life. This scene comes to mind. This was from Texas earlier this week. Take a look at your screens. None of this is normal, or this is happening in cities and towns all across the country now. Take a look.
The Muslim call to prayer, recited in here, heard out there.
More and more cities and towns are doing that. Dr. Phil is a member of the Religious Liberty Commission. Dr. Phil, appreciate you being here. Are you worried about what's happening when it comes to religion in this country right now?
Well, thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate you taking time to talk about this subject matter. And I do think that religious liberty is under attack in the United States. And I think that's why President Trump took the initiative to form the Presidential Commission on Religious Liberty. And what I have learned serving on this commission, our chairman is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Our co-chairman is Dr. Ben Carson. And what I have learned is that religious liberty is not just about being able to choose your house of worship, but it is encroaching into people's daily lives. And we've had over 100 witnesses across our 7 commission hearings, and they're telling us that it's encroaching onto their military service, education, both as teachers and students, health care with doctors being forced to do things that are contrary to their belief system, their religious beliefs, and their careers being put on the line, being fired. We had a doctor that was indicted by not being willing to do things that he just simply didn't believe in.
Well, think about people that refuse to take the COVID vaccine. I know you know all about this.
Yes.
Based on religious reasons, and they were fired from their jobs, or they were the military, the military fired them. It was terrible. It happened a lot under Joe Biden's administration. The report states that religious liberty is essential because religion itself is indispensable to a flourishing society. And I agree with that. But we were founded as a nation of Christian values. So explain to me how radical Islam fits into that.
Well, that's the thing. And listen, this commission was very diverse. We had Muslims, we had Jews, we had Christians from different faiths, and everybody should have the right to pursue the religion, their belief system that they want. That's what liberty is all about, being able to choose. But there's a difference between the right to choose and being forced to do something against your religion, or being forced into a belief system. And that's where you're talking about radical Islam. That's not something where you get a choice. It's something that you're compelled to a belief system. And that's not what we're about in America. And we're in a situation where parental rights have been tramped all over, faith-based institutions, anti-Semitism has run amok here. And Christians are being persecuted and killed around the world, not just in America.
Yeah,
so this fight is fundamental to our rights.
We had those 3 candidates, those 3 Democratic Socialists, communists, who are anti-Jew, elected in New York City on Tuesday, Dr. Phil. Again, we looked up the religions of the Founding Fathers, because people talk about this. They're anti-Jew. That's not anti-Semitic. They're anti-Jew, anti-Israel. The Founding Fathers were Episcopalian, Presbyterian, Congregationalist, Unitarian, Lutheran, Methodist, Quaker, and Catholic. Let me just ask you about Sharia law. Do you think that there is a place for Sharia law in Western society?
Personally, with my belief system, I certainly do not. And I think that we have to educate people about what we're actually talking about. And if we allow this to get a foothold in America, I think the problem is we've got, certainly in the heartland, I have this feeling that Christians somehow have been convinced that they're second-class citizens. That's not the truth. And we have so many in the heartland that have been kind of unwilling to step up and speak up, and I think that's changing. As I said, we had over 100 witnesses that were persecuted for their religious beliefs in America.
Wow.
And I think if we get people to find their voice, we had a teacher that had a little cross that she displayed on a bulletin board in her classroom. She lost her job. She had to litigate to get back to her job just for displaying a cross.
Wow.
And a coach that took a knee at halftime, Coach Kennedy, at the end of a game, I'm sorry.
Right.
And it could be his players, the other players, just taking a knee, thanking God that everybody got through healthy and happy.
No, they only
Not
attack
okay.
Christians.
They came after him.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I remember that story. I've had the coach on this program. I'm so glad to hear you say that. I completely agree. One Democrat nominee, this is the state Senate in New York. This woman won on Tuesday. Her name is Aber Kwawas, and she's a Muslim. And this is what she said about 9/11. Take a listen.
And so, and finding that, the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, et cetera, have all, and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is a long trajectory. The idea that we have to apologize for a terror attack that a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, et cetera, is something that I kind of find reprehensible.
Yeah, Dr. Phil, I find that reprehensible. She's blaming 9/11 on white supremacy. Don't Americans have the right to be at least a little concerned about what's going on right now in this country?
Well, I think we need to be more than a little concerned. And I found the most important word in her statements, the et cetera. It's like I'm going to throw out a few clickbait comments and then et cetera. Do your homework. Find out what she's talking about, and you'll realize that what she's saying is not the tip of the iceberg, it's the whole iceberg. There's nothing behind what she's saying. And I really do get weary of people apologizing for America. We don't need to apologize for America. Is this a perfect country? No. And I love this country enough that I can love it, flaws, fallacies, and all. It hasn't been perfect the entire 250 years, but you know what? We learn from the things that came before us. We do better as we go along, and it is still the best country on the globe. We don't need to apologize for America, and people need to stop doing that.
I agree with you, Dr. Phil, and let me just say something. Appreciate everything you're doing. You look pretty good standing in front of the White House. I'm just going to say that, okay? You look pretty good. Hope you'll come back. Dr. Phil, great to see you. Thank you.
Hey, listen, thanks for turning a bright light on this. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.